The blood on Briar Bennett's apartment door wasn't hers, but it was meant to be. She stood frozen in the hallway of her modest Chicago apartment building, grocery bags trembling in her hands as she stared at the crimson message dripping down the wood. 3 words in what she desperately hoped was paint but knew in her bones was real blood. "We found you." Her phone rang, shattering the terrible silence. Unknown number. She answered it anyway because at this point, what did she have to lose? "Miss Bennett." The voice was male, cultured, with an accent she couldn't quite place, something old-world European blended with modern British refinement. "My name is Valerion Nightshade. I represent certain interests who have become aware of your predicament. You are in immediate danger. Do not enter your apartment. Walk calmly to the stairwell and descend to the parking garage. A black car will be waiting." "Who the hell are you?" Briar whispered, her heart hammering against her ribs. "The man hired to keep you alive. You have approximately 90 seconds before the hunters currently positioned on the fire escape breach your windows. 78 seconds now. I suggest you move." Something in his voice, the absolute certainty, the command that brooked no argument, made her legs move before her brain caught up. She dropped the groceries and ran for the stairwell, her sneakers slapping against the worn linoleum. Behind her, she heard the unmistakable sound of breaking glass. The parking garage smelled like oil and exhaust, and the black Mercedes idling near the exit looked like something out of a movie. The rear door opened as she approached, and a pale hand extended from the darkness within. "Quickly now." Briar hesitated for only a heartbeat before diving into the car. The door closed behind her with an expensive thunk, and the vehicle accelerated smoothly into the street before she even registered who sat beside her. He was the most beautiful and terrifying thing she had ever seen. Valerion Nightshade looked like he had been carved from moonlight and ice. His skin was alabaster pale, flawless and luminous in the dim interior of the car. His hair fell to his shoulders in waves of pure white that caught the passing streetlights like silk, but it was his eyes that held her captive, pale silver, almost colorless, with an intensity that suggested he could see straight through her skin to count her racing heartbeats. He wore a black suit that probably cost more than her yearly rent, tailored perfectly to a frame that managed to be both elegant and powerful. Everything about him screamed wealth, danger, and something else she couldn't quite name, something otherworldly. "You're safe for the moment," he said, and his voice in person was even more compelling than over the phone velvet over steel. "Though I expect you have questions. Who were those people? Why did you say hunters?" "Hunters of what?" Briar pressed herself against the opposite door, her mind racing through possibilities and rejecting all of them as impossible. Valerion tilted his head, studying her with those unsettling silver eyes. "You truly don't know what you are, do you? How remarkably careless of your parents." "I'm human. I'm a graphic designer who lives in a crappy apartment and has student loans. What else would I be?" "Human, yes, but not entirely ordinary, Miss Bennett." He leaned forward slightly, and she caught a scent like winter night air and something darker, richer. "You carry a bloodline that certain factions find very valuable. Your great-grandmother was a Dhampir, half human, half vampire. The blood is diluted in you, but it still carries properties that make you uniquely suited to certain purposes." Briar laughed, the sound edging toward hysteria. "Vampires aren't real. This is insane. Let me out of the car." In a movement too fast for her eyes to track, Valerion's hand shot out and caught her wrist before she could reach for the door handle. His grip was gentle but absolutely immovable, and his skin was cold not unpleasantly, but noticeably cooler than any human should be. "I am afraid reality cares very little for your belief in it," he said softly. "Those hunters are very real, and they are employed by a faction of vampires who wish to use your blood for a ritual that would grant them immunity to sunlight. The process would require draining you completely and repeatedly over the course of several weeks. I have been hired by the Vampire Council to ensure that does not happen, as such a ritual would upset the careful balance that keeps our world hidden from yours." She stared at him, at the inhuman perfection of his features, at eyes that seemed to glow faintly in the darkness, at the hand wrapped around her wrist with impossible strength. Her rational mind was screaming that this couldn't be real, but her instincts, those deep, ancient survival instincts that lived in the back of the brain, were telling her something else entirely. "Prove it," she whispered. Valerion released her wrist and leaned back, never breaking eye contact. Then he smiled, and she saw the fang's elegant, razor-sharp canines that definitely had not been visible a moment ago. They retracted smoothly after a second, disappearing as if they had never been. "I am Valerion Nightshade, king of the Northern Territories, first of my bloodline and nearly 800 years old. And as of 3 days ago, I am your personal guardian. I suggest you reconcile yourself to this new reality quickly, Miss Bennett." Your life depends on it. Briar felt the world tilt sideways. She had two choices: completely lose her mind or adapt. She'd always been good at adapting. It was how she'd survived her parents' deaths, how she'd gotten through college working 3 jobs, how she'd built a freelance career from nothing. "Call me Briar," she said finally, her voice steadier than she felt. "If you're going to be my bodyguard, we might as well be on first-name basis, and you can start by telling me exactly how much danger I'm in." Something flickered in Valerion's expression, surprise perhaps, or approval. "Considerable. The faction seeking you is led by an ancient vampire named Malakar. He has been searching for someone with your bloodline for over a century. His resources are extensive, his hunters are relentless, and he will not stop until you are captured or dead." "Great. Fantastic. And the Vampire Council hired you because I am the only one strong enough to stand against Malakar and his forces, and because I owe the Council a rather significant debt." His lips curved in something that wasn't quite a smile. "Also because I have certain qualifications that make me ideal for close protection work." The car pulled into an underground garage beneath a building that looked like it had been standing since Chicago's founding. Old brick and iron, the kind of construction that suggested wealth so old it didn't need to announce itself. Valerion exited first and extended his hand to help her out, an oddly courtly gesture that reminded her he was from a different time entirely. "Where are we?" "One of my properties. You'll be safe here. The building has protections both mundane and supernatural. Malakar's hunters cannot enter without invitation." He led her to a private elevator, his hands settling at the small of her back with casual possessiveness that sent an unexpected shiver through her. The penthouse was exactly what she should have expected: all dark wood, leather, and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked the glittering Chicago skyline. Priceless art hung on the walls, and she was pretty sure that was a genuine Rembrandt over the fireplace. Everything spoke of wealth accumulated over centuries, of tastes refined beyond the merely expensive into the realm of the exquisite. "There are guest quarters through there," Valerion indicated a hallway. "You'll find everything you need. Clothes in your size, toiletries, whatever you require. I took the liberty of having my people retrieve some of your personal items from your apartment before the hunters completely ransacked it. You've been planning this. It wasn't a question. I have been watching you for 3 weeks, ensuring I understood your routines and vulnerabilities before making contact. Malakar's hunters only accelerated my timeline." He moved to a bar cart and poured something amber into a crystal glass. "Would you like a drink? You look as though you could use one." "Vodka. Straight. Large." He obliged, and when he handed her the glass, their fingers brushed. Again that coolness, that sense of barely contained power. Briar downed half the vodka in one swallow, coughing slightly as it burned down her throat. "How long do I have to hide here?" Valerion's expression went carefully neutral. "Until Malakar is dealt with permanently. I am working with the Council to locate his stronghold and eliminate the threat he represents." "You mean kill him?" "He is already dead, technically. But yes, I mean to end his existence thoroughly and finally." There was no apology in his voice, no hesitation. "He has violated Council law, endangered the secrecy that keeps our kind safe, and threatened an innocent woman under my protection. His destruction is both justified and necessary." Briar set down her glass with a sharp click. "I don't want anyone dying because of me." "Then you misunderstand the situation entirely." Valerion moved closer, and she found herself backing up until her legs hit the couch. He braced one hand on the back of it, leaning down until his face was level with hers. "Malakar was a monster long before you were born. He has killed hundreds, destroyed countless lives in his quest for power. You are merely his latest obsession. If I destroy him, it will be because he has earned that destruction 1,000 times over, not because of you." His proximity was overwhelming. She could see the faint patterns in his silver eyes, like frost on a window. Could smell that winter night scent of him, clean and cold and strangely appealing. Could feel the power radiating off him like heat from a fire, except cold instead of warm. "You're afraid of me," he observed, but he didn't move away. "That is wise. I am dangerous, Briar Bennett. Perhaps the most dangerous creature you will ever encounter. But I'm bound by my word, and I have given it that I will protect you. That means something to my kind. It means everything. Why do I get the feeling there's something you're not telling me?" His lips curved in genuine amusement. "Because you are perceptive. There are many things I am not telling you. Most of them would only frighten you further, and serve no useful purpose at this juncture. Try me. I'm tougher than I look." Valerion straightened, giving her space again, and she found herself almost disappointed by the distance. "Very well. Malakar wants your blood for his ritual, but there is another complication. The diluted vampire blood in your veins makes you appealing to my kind. Your scent, your very presence is more attractive to us than an ordinary human's would be. It makes you valuable not just for what you can provide, but for what you represent. A bridge between our worlds. Some vampires see that as an opportunity. Others see it as a threat. And which do you see it as? His eyes held hers. I see it as an assignment, nothing more. It felt like a lie, but she couldn't have said why. The first few days fell into an uneasy routine. Briar discovered that Valerion was a creature of precise habits, which she supposed made sense for someone who had been alive for 8 centuries. He disappeared each dawn to sleep in whatever heavily protected chamber he maintained, and emerged each sunset impeccably dressed and utterly composed. He was courteous, formal, and maintained a careful distance that should have made her feel safe. Instead, it made her restless. She caught herself watching him when she thought he wasn't paying attention, the way he moved with inhuman grace, the way his hands looked holding a book or a wine glass, the way his white hair caught the light. She told herself it was simple fascination with the supernatural, nothing more. He wasn't even human. This was Stockholm Syndrome or something equally pathological. But then she'd catch him watching her too, with an intensity in those silver eyes that made her breath catch, and she'd remember the feel of his cool hand on her back, the way his scent surrounded her when he stood close, the barely leashed power in his every movement. On the 4th night she found him in his study, surrounded by maps and documents. He looked up when she entered, one white eyebrow rising in question. "Can't sleep," she explained. "What are you doing?" "Hunting the hunters." He gestured to the papers spread across his desk. "Malakar's people have been spotted in 3 different locations. I am trying to determine which is his true base of operations and which are merely decoys." Briar moved closer, studying the marked-up maps of Chicago and the surrounding areas. "You said you were a king. Shouldn't you have people to do this for you?" "I do. They report to me and I make the decisions. Trust is a rare commodity in the vampire world, Briar. The older you become, the more enemies you accumulate. I learned long ago that the only person I can truly trust is myself." He leaned back in his chair, regarding her thoughtfully. "Why can you not sleep? Are you afraid?" "Yes," she admitted, "but not just of the hunters, of all of this. My entire understanding of reality has been rewritten in less than a week. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and discover this was all some elaborate hallucination. I am afraid it is quite real." He stood with that liquid grace she'd come to recognize, moving around the desk to stand before her. "Is there anything I can do to ease your fears? Tell me something true about yourself, something real. Not about hunting or danger or vampire politics. Something that makes you feel like a person instead of—" She gestured vaguely at him. "A monster? I was going to say a marble statue. You're so controlled all the time, so perfect and remote. I know you're trying to keep professional distance, but it's driving me crazy." Valerion was quiet for a long moment, and she thought she'd offended him. Then he reached out and took her hand, turning it palm up. His fingers traced the lines there, cool and precise. "I remember being human," he said softly. "Not well, it was a very long time ago, but I remember summer. The feel of sun on my skin, that is what I miss most, I think. Not the warmth, I do not feel temperature the way you do, but the light, the simple ability to stand in daylight without burning to ash." His thumb brushed across her palm and she shivered. "I remember falling in love for the first time. Her name was Eloise. She had dark hair and laughed easily. I was 17 and thought I would marry her. Then the plague came to our village, and she died, and I—" He stopped, releasing her hand. "I do not know why I am telling you this, because I ask," Briar said quietly. "And because maybe you need to remember you're more than just a weapon." The council pointed at a problem. His eyes met hers, and something crackled in the air between them, not quite magic, not quite desire, but a third thing born of both. "You should go to bed, Briar. It is late, and you need rest." "What if I don't want to?" "Then I would say you are playing a very dangerous game with a very dangerous creature." But his voice had dropped to almost a whisper, and he hadn't moved away. "You said you gave your word to protect me. That means something to your kind," you said. "It means everything. Then I'm safe with you, aren't I?" Valerion's jaw tightened. "Your body is safe. I would destroy anyone who attempted to harm you. But there are other kinds of danger, Briar Bennett. Other ways to be hurt." "Show me your fangs again," she whispered, not sure where the words came from but unable to stop them. "Why? Because I need to remember what you are. Because I need to stop thinking about you the way I've been thinking about you. And how have you been thinking about me?" The question was dangerous, and they both knew it. "Like you're a man instead of a monster. Like the way you look at me sometimes means the same thing it would if you were human. Like this tension between us is real and not just me losing my mind under stress." For a moment she thought he would step back, retreat into that cold formality he wore like armor. Instead, He cupped her face with one pale hand, tilting it up toward him. Then he smiled, and the fangs descended, elegant, lethal, and somehow erotic. I am a monster, Briar. Never forget that. I have killed more people than you can imagine. I have lived through the death of empires and seen civilizations rise and fall. I am older than your country, stronger than any human, and bound by laws and customs you cannot begin to understand. His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. And yet you are right. The way I look at you is real. Dangerously, foolishly real. Her heart was thundering so hard she was sure he could hear it. Go to bed, he said again, but his voice was rough now, strained. Please, while I still have the strength to let you go. She went, but she felt his eyes on her all the way to her room. And when she finally did fall asleep, she dreamed of cool hands and silver eyes and the taste of danger on her tongue. The attack came on the 7th night. Briar woke to the sound of breaking glass and Valerion's voice raised in a language she didn't recognize. She stumbled out of bed, grabbing the baseball bat he'd insisted she keep nearby, and opened her door to chaos. 3 figures in black tactical gear were in the living room, moving with inhuman speed. But Valerion was faster. He moved like violence made beautiful, like death given elegant form. One of the intruders went down with his throat torn open, black blood spraying across the expensive furniture. Another lost his head so quickly Briar didn't see Valerion's hand move. The third one saw her in the doorway and changed targets. She swung the bat with all her strength, connecting with the thing's head with a satisfying crack. It barely slowed him down. He grabbed the bat, ripped it from her hands, and backhanded her across the face hard enough to send her sprawling. Then Valerion was there, and the rage in his expression was absolutely terrifying. He caught the hunter by the throat and simply crushed it, the sound of vertebrae snapping echoing in the suddenly quiet room. He dropped the corpse and was kneeling beside Briar in the next instant, his hands gentle as they examined her bleeding lip and the bruise already forming on her cheekbone. Are you hurt anywhere else? Briar, look at me. Are you injured? I'm okay, she managed, though her face throbbed and her head was spinning. How did they get in? A blood invitation. They had one of my servants under compulsion. His voice was still rough with fury and his eyes had gone almost completely silver, the pupils barely visible. This is my failure. I should have anticipated. Stop. She reached up and touched his face, feeling the tension in his jaw. You saved me. Again. That's what matters. He closed his eyes briefly, and when he opened them again some of the inhuman rage had faded. But something else had replaced it, something equally intense but far more complex. When I saw him strike you, He stopped, seemed to gather himself. We cannot stay here. Malachar knows this location now. I am taking you somewhere he cannot follow. Where? The Shadow Court, my stronghold in the vampire realm. It exists outside normal space, a pocket dimension created centuries ago. No one can enter without my express permission. He stood, pulling her up with him. Pack quickly, we leave in 10 minutes. The Shadow Court was accessed through a portal in the basement, a shimmering tear in reality that made Briar's eyes water to look at directly. Valerion held her hand as they stepped through, his grip reassuring and unbreakable. She expected darkness, maybe something out of a gothic horror movie. Instead, she found herself in a palace that took her breath away. Soaring ceilings of carved stone that seemed to glow with their own inner light. Halls lined with tapestries that moved with scenes of vampire history. Gardens filled with flowers that bloomed in darkness, their petals luminous shades of blue and silver. And everywhere the sense of age of power that had been accumulating in this place for longer than her mind could comprehend. Welcome to my home, Valerion said quietly. You are the first human to stand here in over 200 years. Servants appeared, pale, elegant vampires who bowed deeply to Valerion and regarded Briar with barely concealed curiosity. He issued orders in that same liquid language she'd heard him use during the fight, and they dispersed immediately. You have a staff, she said numbly. An entire palace. You really are a king. Did you think I was exaggerating? He guided her through corridors that seemed to shift subtly when she wasn't looking directly at them, until they reached a suite of rooms that was larger than her entire apartment had been. These chambers are yours for as long as you require them. Nothing can harm you here. The Shadow Court itself would rise against anything that threatened a guest under my protection. Valerion. She turned to face him, still holding his hand. What's happening between us? And don't tell me it's nothing. I felt you shake when you thought I was hurt. His free hand came up to cup her face, careful of her bruised cheek. What is happening between us is impossible and unwise and completely unprecedented in my experience. I am your guardian. You are my charge. I am vampire, you are human. I am 8 centuries old, you are 26. Every logical reason says we should maintain perfect professional distance. But I find myself thinking of you every moment you are out of my sight. I find myself wanting to know every thought in your head, every fear and hope and dream. I find myself willing to burn down the world to keep you safe, and not because of my oath or my duty." His thumb brushed across her lower lip, avoiding the cut. "I find myself wanting things I have not wanted in a very, very long time." Briar's breath caught. "Like what? Like this?" He kissed her with a tenderness that somehow made it more devastating than if he'd been rough. His lips were cool against hers, gentle and careful. But she could feel the tension in his body, the iron control keeping his strength and hunger in check. She kissed him back, threading her fingers through his white hair, pressing closer despite every rational thought screaming that this was insane. When he finally pulled away, his breathing was unsteady, which she hadn't known vampires needed to do, and his eyes had gone that pure silver color again. "This is a terrible idea," he said. But he didn't let her go. "Probably the worst I've ever had," she agreed. "But I don't care. Valerion, I've spent the last week watching you, learning you. You're not just my protector. You're brilliant and lonely, and you carry the weight of centuries like it's armor. You make me feel safe and terrified and alive all at once. I don't know what this is or where it can possibly go, but I know I want it. I want you." Something in his expression shifted, a wall coming down, a decision made. "If we do this, there is no going back, my kind mate for life, Briar. When we give our hearts, we give them completely and forever. I am not capable of casual affection. If you allow me to love you, I will love you with everything I am for the rest of your life and long after. Are you certain this is what you want?" The enormity of what he was offering should have terrified her. Instead, it felt like the first truly right thing in her entire chaotic life. "I'm certain." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and she felt the careful brush of his fangs against her lower lip. Not breaking skin, just a reminder of what he was, what they were risking. When he lifted her, she wrapped her legs around his waist, and he carried her to the massive bed in the center of the room. "I will not take your blood," he said, laying her down on silk sheets. "Not tonight, not ever, unless you ask it of me. And I will be gentle. I swear it. I trust you." The words seemed to undo something in him. He made love to her with a reverence that brought tears to her eyes, his cool hands learning every inch of her skin, his lips following where his fingers led. He was careful with his strength, controlled and tender, but she could feel the passion beneath centuries of loneliness and hunger finally finding an outlet. Afterward, she lay curled against his chest, listening to his unnecessary heartbeat, and felt safer than she had in her entire life. "Tell me about your kingdom," she murmured. "Tell me what it means to be a vampire king." He ran his fingers through her hair, the gesture becoming natural already. "The northern territories span what you would call Scandinavia, parts of Russia, and several pocket realms like this one. I have perhaps 10,000 vampires under my rule, and I am responsible for maintaining order, enforcing council law, and protecting them from both external threats and their own worst impulses. It is not a position I sought, but one I inherited when I defeated my predecessor in ritual combat 3 centuries ago." "That sounds lonely." "It has been. A king cannot show weakness, cannot afford true friendship as it creates vulnerabilities, cannot love, because love is the greatest vulnerability of all." His arms tightened around her. "Until now. What happens when this is over? When Malachar is dealt with? That depends entirely on what you want. Briar Bennett, I can return you to your human life, set you up with enough money that you need never worry about anything again. I can ensure you are protected but give you your freedom." He tilted her face up to his. "Or you can stay. With me, I can offer you a place in this world, at my side. I can offer you immortality if you choose it, though not for many years yet. You are far too young for the transformation. But I can offer you my heart, my protection, my devotion, for as long as you will have them. You're asking me to choose between my entire world and you. I am asking you to choose what will make you happy. If that is your human life, I will accept it. It will destroy me, but I will accept it because your happiness matters more than my own." Briar thought about her life before the tiny apartment, the endless freelance deadlines, the bone-deep loneliness she'd been ignoring for years. She thought about this palace of wonders, about the way Valerion looked at her like she was precious, about the intensity of feeling she'd experienced in his arms. "Ask me again when this is over," she said finally. "When we're both safe and I can think clearly. But Valerion, I'm already pretty sure what my answer will be." He kissed her forehead, and she felt him smile against her skin. "Then I suppose I should ensure we both survive this, so you have the chance to tell me." The War Council convened the next evening in a hall that looked like something out of a medieval painting. Long table, high-backed chairs, and assembled around it were some of the most powerful vampires in existence. Valerion had explained them to her. Seraphine of the Eastern Covens, white-haired and terrifyingly beautiful. Constantine the Ancient, so old his skin had taken on an almost translucent quality. Lucienne of the southern courts, elegant and cold-eyed, and Briar, the only human in the room, sitting at Valerion's right hand like she belonged there. Malachar has gone to ground, Seraphine reported, her voice like music over broken glass. Our spies have located his main stronghold, a converted warehouse complex in the industrial sector. He has perhaps 30 vampires with him, all loyal to his cause. And what is his cause precisely? Lucienne asked. Beyond the obvious madness of trying to steal the day-walking ritual. Power, Valerion said flatly. The ability to walk in sunlight would make him effectively unstoppable. He could attack any of us at our most vulnerable, consolidate territory, overthrow the council itself. He has grown tired of the old laws, tired of hiding. He wants to rule openly, to subjugate humanity rather than coexist with it. Then he must be destroyed, Constantine rumbled. The law is clear. The punishment for threatening the silence is final death. I will handle it personally, Valerion said. Tonight, I will take a strike force and end this. No. Briar's voice cut through the discussion, and every vampire at the table turned to look at her. She fought down her instinctive fear and met their ancient eyes. He wants me, right? I'm the bait. So use me as bait. Absolutely not, Valerion said, his tone brooking no argument. I will not dangle you before him like a worm on a hook. You don't have to. He knows where I am now you brought me to the Shadow Court. He'll be expecting you to come for him. But what if I went to him instead? Offered myself in exchange for him leaving everyone else alone? Have you lost your mind? Valerion was on his feet, fury and fear warring in his expression. He would drain you dry for his ritual. I will not allow it. You won't allow it because you're not listening to the whole plan. Briar stood as well, facing him down across the table. I go to him, wearing a wire or whatever the vampire equivalent is. You track me. Wait until he's distracted with whatever beginning of ritual nonsense he's planning, and then you attack with overwhelming force. He won't be expecting an assault while he's in the middle of a magical working. It's the perfect opportunity. Seraphine leaned forward, interest gleaming in her eyes. The human makes a compelling argument. Malachar's arrogance is legendary. He would never suspect we'd risk his prize to trap him. I said no. Valerion's hands were on the table, and Briar could see the wood cracking under his grip. I will not gamble with her life. It's my life to gamble with, Briar shot back. And I'm the only one here who doesn't have centuries of existence behind her. I'm also the only one he wants. If you attack his stronghold directly, people will die. Your people, Valerion. Vampires who follow you and trust you to lead them wisely. How many of their lives is my safety worth? The silence that followed was deafening. She could see the calculation in every ancient face, the cold mathematics of war and sacrifice. Could see the moment Valerion realized she was right and hated it with every fiber of his being. There has to be another way, he said. But his voice had lost its certainty. If there was, you would have found it already. You're brilliant at strategy. But you're compromised on this one because your feelings for me are clouding your judgment. She softened her tone, reaching across the table to touch his hand. I know you want to protect me. I know every instinct you have is screaming to lock me away somewhere safe. But I'm not a helpless princess in a tower. I'm a woman who understands the stakes and is willing to take a risk to end this. Trust me, please. His eyes met hers and she saw anguish there, the terrible weight of loving someone and knowing you might lose them. If anything happens to you, then you burn his entire operation to the ground and scatter the ashes, she finished. But it won't, because you're going to be there and I have absolute faith in you. Constantine cleared his throat, the sound like grinding stone. The human shows more courage than many immortals I have known. I vote we accept her plan. One by one, the others nodded their agreement. Valerion looked at them all, then back at Briar, and she saw the moment he surrendered. We do this my way, he said finally, with every precaution. And if there is even a moment where I believe you are in true danger, I am coming for you immediately. Strategic advantage be damned. I wouldn't expect anything less. The preparation took hours. They fitted her with a tiny tracking device that looked like a jeweled earring, but would allow Valerion to know her exact location at all times. Seraphine gave her a vial of liquid that looked like mercury, a poison specifically designed to weaken vampires without killing humans. If you get the chance, get it into his blood, the ancient vampire instructed. Even a drop will slow him down considerably. Valerion said nothing during the preparations, but Briar could feel the tension radiating off him. When the others finally left to organize the strike force, he pulled her into his arms with a desperation that broke her heart. I cannot lose you, he said into her hair. Briar, I have lived 800 years, and I have never feared anything the way I fear losing you. If this goes wrong, it won't. But if it does, I need you to know. He pulled back, framing her face with his hands. In 8 centuries I have never loved anyone the way I love you. You have brought light back into my existence. You have reminded me what it means to be more than just a weapon or a throne. Whatever happens tonight, I need you to know that you have been the greatest gift of my very long life." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "This isn't goodbye. I'm coming back to you, Valerion. I swear it. And when I do, I'm going to tell you that I love you too. That I choose you, and this world, and whatever future we can build together. So you'd better make sure you're there to hear it." He kissed her like he was trying to memorize the taste of her, fierce and tender all at once. When he finally released her, his eyes were suspiciously bright. "Then let us end this, so we can begin everything else." The warehouse complex looked abandoned, but Briar could feel eyes on her the moment she approached. She walked slowly, hands visible and empty, toward the main building. Her heart was hammering, but she kept her expression calm. She was bait. She was a offering. She was a helpless human who had nowhere left to run. The doors opened before she reached them. Malachar was waiting inside, and he was everything Valerion was not. Where Valerion was elegant, Malachar was brutal. Where Valerion moved with grace, Malachar moved with predatory hunger. His skin was pale like all vampires, his hair white and cut short, but there was nothing regal about him. He looked like violence barely contained in flesh. "Briar Bennett," he said, his voice rough and unpleasant. "How convenient of you to deliver yourself to my door. I was beginning to think I would have to dig you out of Nightshade's little shadow kingdom." "I'm here to make a deal," Briar said, fighting to keep her voice steady. "You let everyone else go. No more attacks on Valerion's people, no more hunters, no more war. In exchange, I give myself to you willingly. You get what you want and the killing stops." Malachar laughed, the sound echoing in the cavernous space. "You think you have any negotiating power here, little Dampier? You think I care about a few vampire casualties? This has never been about you specifically. You are simply the key to my ascension. But I'm here now. Doesn't that make the rest of it unnecessary? Perhaps." He circled her slowly, and she forced herself not to flinch away. "Or perhaps I enjoy the hunt too much to give it up so easily. Tell me, did Nightshade send you here? Is this some elaborate trap? He doesn't know I'm here. I slipped away while he was planning his assault on your stronghold." The lie came easily, smoothly. "I figured out where you were from the intelligence reports, and I came on my own. Because I'm tired of running, and I'm tired of people dying because of what I am." She could see him calculating, weighing her words for truth. Then he grabbed her arm, his grip bruising, and dragged her deeper into the warehouse. In the center of the space, someone had drawn an elaborate ritual circle in what looked disturbingly like blood. Chains hung from the ceiling at the circle's center. "Strip," Malachar ordered. "The ritual requires your blood to flow freely, without the contamination of modern fabrics." This was the part of the plan she'd been dreading. But she thought of Valerion's face, of his promise to come for her, and started removing her jacket with shaking hands. The tracking device was in her earring. They couldn't take that without making her suspicious. The poison vial was taped to her inner thigh, hidden beneath her jeans. She'd removed her jacket and was reaching for her shirt when the doors exploded inward. Valerion came through the opening like an avenging angel, white hair streaming behind him, eyes blazing pure silver. Behind him she could see shapes moving his strike force, pouring into the warehouse from every entrance. The trap had been sprung, but not the one Malachar expected. "You dare," Malachar roared, and the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. "She is mine by right of discovery. She is mine by right of love," Valerion snarled back, "and you will not lay another hand on her." What followed was chaos. Vampires clashed in a blur of superhuman speed and violence. Briar dove for cover behind a stack of crates, her hands shaking as she watched Valerion and Malachar collide in the center of the warehouse. They moved too fast for her human eyes to track properly, but she could see the devastation they left behind: concrete cracking, metal tearing, the very air seeming to distort around their conflict. Malachar was strong, ancient, and fighting with nothing to lose. But Valerion fought with something the older vampire couldn't match: absolute conviction. Every blow he landed was powered by 800 years of skill and the desperate need to protect what he loved. Briar saw her opportunity when they grappled, locked together in a test of pure strength. She pulled the vial from its hiding place, uncorked it with shaking fingers, and ran toward the fighting vampires. "Valerion, down!" He trusted her without hesitation, dropping low. Briar threw the contents of the vial directly into Malachar's face. The effect was instantaneous. The ancient vampire screamed, his grip loosening as the poison burned through his system. Valerion didn't waste the opportunity. His hand struck like a snake, fingers curving into claws, and he tore out Malachar's heart with brutal efficiency. The ancient vampire's expression went from rage to shock to nothing as his body began to crumble, aging 800 years in 8 seconds. By the time he hit the ground, there was nothing left but dust and the fading echo of a scream. Silence fell over the warehouse. The remaining members of Malakar's faction, seeing their leader destroyed, either surrendered or fled into the night. Valerion stood in the center of the carnage, covered in black vampire blood, breathing hard despite not needing air. Then his eyes found Briar, and he was moving again, crossing the space between them and pulling her into his arms with crushing force. "Never again," he said against her hair, his voice shaking. "Never put yourself in danger like that again, do you understand me? Never. I'm okay, we're okay." She held him just as tightly, feeling his entire body trembling with reaction. "It's over, he's gone. We're safe. You magnificent, terrifying, brilliant woman. You could have been killed. He could have, but he didn't, because you were there, because we worked together." She pulled back enough to look up at him. "I told you I'd come back to you. I told you I was going to say something important." Some of the fear in his expression eased, replaced by cautious hope. "Did you mean it? Every word. I love you, Valerion Nightshade. I love you, and I choose this life. For however long you'll have me, for however long my human lifespan allows, and maybe even beyond that if you still want me when I'm old enough for the transformation. I'm yours. Completely." He kissed her there in the wreckage of their victory, and she could taste his relief and joy and overwhelming love. Around them, his people were securing the warehouse, dealing with the aftermath, but for that moment it was just the two of them. Just a vampire king and the human woman who had somehow, impossibly, captured his ancient heart. The celebration at the Shadow Court lasted 3 days. Vampires came from every territory to pay their respects to Valerion and to witness the human who had helped bring down Malakar. Briar found herself the center of attention in a way that would have terrified her weeks ago, but with Valerion at her side, she felt capable of handling anything. Seraphine cornered her on the second evening, white eyes gleaming with amusement. "You have caused quite the scandal, you know. A vampire king taking a human mate has not happened in over 1,000 years. The council is beside themselves trying to figure out the proper protocols. Is that going to be a problem?" Briar asked, suddenly worried. "For them, perhaps. For you?" The ancient vampire smiled, showing her fangs. "Valerion is one of the most powerful beings in our world. If he has chosen you, then you are under his protection, which means you are effectively untouchable. Besides, I quite like you. You have spine. Most humans would have fainted dead away at their first council meeting. But you stood your ground and argued strategy with vampires who have been waging wars since before your civilization existed. That takes impressive courage, or impressive stupidity," Briar muttered. "Often the same thing." Seraphine's expression turned more serious. "He loves you very much, you know. I have known Valerion for 4 centuries and I have never seen him like this. You have changed something fundamental in him. He's changed me too. I never thought I could have this someone who looks at me like I'm precious, someone who makes me feel safe and excited and challenged all at once. Then I suppose I should welcome you properly to our world. Though I warn you, dating a vampire king is not for the faint of heart. The politics alone would make a normal human's head spin. Good thing I'm not exactly normal anymore." The final night of celebration, Valerion took her to the highest tower of the Shadow Court. The view from the top showed impossible vistas, the pocket dimensions version of a night sky, with stars that moved in patterns no human astronomer would recognize. "I have something for you," he said, pulling a small box from his jacket. "I realize this is perhaps rushing things by human standards, but I am 800 years old. I know what I want, and I know I do not wish to waste a single moment of whatever time we have together." Briar's heart started racing as he opened the box. Inside was a ring white gold set with a stone that looked like captured starlights, swirling with colors that didn't quite exist in the normal spectrum. "Briar Bennett, would you do me the extraordinary honor of becoming my wife? I can offer you wealth and protection and an eternity at my side, but more than that, I offer you my heart. Every part of myself that still remembers how to love. I swear to cherish you, to protect you, to stand between you and every danger this world or any other can produce. I swear to love you with everything I am for as long as you will have me." She was crying again, but this time from pure joy. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly, warm against her skin despite his cool touch. Then he was kissing her, and she could feel his relief and happiness flowing through the connection between them. "There is one thing we should discuss," he said when they finally broke apart. "The transformation. When you are ready and not a moment before, I want to be very clear about that. I can offer you immortality. You would become vampire, as I am. It would mean leaving behind sunlight, human food, the ability to have children in the traditional sense. But it would also mean we could have forever together. However, you must be absolutely certain. The change is irreversible. Briar thought about it carefully. She'd spent weeks now in the vampire world, learning its rhythms and rules. She'd seen both the beauty and the darkness, the power and the cost, and when she imagined her future, it was always here with Valerion building something new together. Not yet, she said. I want to live as a human for a while longer. Experience our relationship the normal way, without the complication of the transformation. But someday, yes. When I'm ready, when we've had time to build our foundation, I want forever with you. Then you shall have it. We have time, my love, all the time in the world. They married a month later in a ceremony that blended vampire tradition with human custom. The Shadow Court had never seen anything like it, ancient vampires standing alongside the few humans Briar counted as friends, witnessing vows that promised eternity. She wore white, he wore black, and when they sealed their union with a kiss, the court itself seemed to pulse with approval. The years that followed were the happiest of Briar's life. She learned to navigate vampire politics, becoming an unexpected asset to Valerion's rule. Her human perspective offered insights that centuries of vampire thinking had missed, and she found herself acting as a bridge between the two worlds. She consulted on council matters, helped negotiate treaties, and even started a program to help young vampires adapt to the modern world. And through it all, Valerion was there, constant, devoted, and deeply in love. They had their fights. It was impossible not to, when you mixed his ancient stubbornness with her modern independence. But they always worked through them. He taught her about his world, and she reminded him of the humanity he'd once had. They complemented each other perfectly. On her 35th birthday, she came to him with her decision. I'm ready, she said simply. I've lived as a human with you. I've experienced everything I wanted to experience in this form. Now I want forever. He studied her carefully, silver eyes searching her face. You are absolutely certain? There is no shame in waiting longer, my love. I will love you just as fiercely whether you are human or vampire. I'm certain. I want this. I want eternity with you. The transformation was done in the old way, with ritual and reverence. It hurt more than she'd expected. 3 days of fever and pain as her body died and was reborn, but Valerion never left her side. He held her through the worst of it, whispered encouragement when she thought she couldn't take any more, and was the first thing she saw when she opened her new eyes. The world looked different. Colors were sharper, sounds clearer, and she could feel the power thrumming through her veins. When she looked in the mirror, her skin had taken on that pale, luminous quality, and her hair had lightened several shades. Her eyes were no longer brown but a pale amber that caught the light like a cat's. How do you feel? Valerion asked, his hand resting at the small of her back. Powerful, strong, hungry. She turned to look at him, really look at him with her new senses, and was overwhelmed by the sheer presence of him. And so completely in love with you that it almost hurts. He pulled her into his arms, and she could feel the way their energies resonated with each other, now vampire to vampire, mate to mate. Welcome to eternity, my queen. May every moment of it be filled with joy. They went to the council together to formally announce her transformation. Some of the ancient vampires were skeptical, a human turned vampire who now stood as queen consort to one of the most powerful kings in existence. But Briar had spent years proving herself in their world. When she spoke, they listened. When she offered counsel, they considered it. She had earned her place through intelligence and courage, and the transformation only solidified what everyone already knew. She was Valerion's equal in every way that mattered. The decades flowed like water after that. Briar threw herself into her new existence with the same determination she'd brought to everything in her human life. She learned to fight from the best vampire warriors, studied politics and history from the oldest minds in their world, and developed her own power until she could stand on her own even without Valerion's protection. But she never needed to stand alone. He was always there, her partner, her protector, her love. They ruled the Northern Territories together, making changes that slowly modernized the old ways without destroying what was worth preserving. They traveled the world, both human and vampire realms, building alliances and creating art and simply experiencing existence together. And every night, when they returned to the Shadow Court, Valerion would take her in his arms and thank her for choosing him, for choosing their life together, for being brave enough to walk into danger and wise enough to see that the monster was more than he appeared. On their 100th anniversary, they stood together on the same tower where he'd proposed. The vampire world had changed dramatically in that century, more open, more integrated with humanity, more willing to adapt, and much of that change had come from the example they'd set. A vampire king who had learned to love a human woman who had become a vampire queen without losing her humanity. Do you ever regret it? Valerion asked, his arm around her waist. Giving up your human life for this? Briar looked out over the impossible landscape of their kingdom, then up at the ageless face of the man she loved. 100 years together, and he still made her heart race. An eternity ahead of them, and she couldn't wait for every moment. Not even once, she said, and kissed him as stars wheeled overhead in patterns only they could see. The hunters had come for her once, intent on using her blood for a dark ritual. Instead, she'd found something far more valuable than they'd ever imagined. She'd found love that transcended death itself. She'd found a partner who would stand with her against any darkness. She'd found a home in a world she'd never known existed. And Valerion, the ancient vampire king who had spent centuries alone, had found his heart again in the eyes of a brave human woman who'd refused to be just another victim. He'd been hired to guard her from the hunters, but in the end, the vampire king had fallen harder than any bullet. And in falling, he'd found the one thing 800 years of existence had never given him. He'd found home. He'd found love. He'd found Briar, and together, they had forever. The shadow court hummed with contentment around them, the ancient stones singing songs of a love story that would be told for generations to come. A story of courage and trust, of danger overcome and hearts opened. A story that proved that even immortals could find something worth living for. Even monsters could find redemption in love. And even a scared human woman could become a queen who would rule with wisdom and compassion for centuries to come. All because a vampire king had been hired to protect her and had instead chosen to love her with everything he was. In the end, that was the greatest magic of all, not the vampires or the immortality or the powers beyond human comprehension, but the simple, profound truth that love could bridge any divide, that two souls could find each other across the gulf between mortal and immortal and build something beautiful together. And as Valerion held his queen in his arms, looking out over the kingdom they'd built together, he knew with absolute certainty that being hired to guard her had been the greatest fortune of his very long life, because in protecting her, he'd discovered the thing he'd been missing for 800 years: purpose, partnership, and a love that would last until the stars themselves went dark. Forever was a long time. But with Briar at his side, Valerion was ready for every moment of it.